Hello, thank you for listening. I am almost blind right now. I'm not blind, but I have difficulty seeing. I would rather put this in words, written words, for you to read easily and save your expense use of high-speed internet to listen to this on YouTube. But right now I have to do it this way or I'll not get the message out. And it's probably too late for me to get the message out because the election is 2 weeks from now. And unfortunately, a whole lot of black people who are poor and a whole lot of persons who are not poor who've been fooled into thinking that the Democratic Party cares about them, that they're going to vote for this horrible, wicked Hillary Clinton, who is a white racist. She's a wolf in sheep's clothing, and so is the Democratic Party. Now, get the facts and get them straight and understand what they are and stop being manipulated by the media, by people who have their own agenda, which is not your agenda, and who can't stand your guts. Now, get out, go Google this. Go look this up in the history books. The Democratic Party has been in charge of our government for the last 80 years. From Roosevelt. When Roosevelt took over, a minority of socialists and immoral persons took over the Democratic Party. And they ran it. And they used it to make jobs for Democrats. And to steal money from you. And they pretended they were going to help the blacks and the poor. But what they only did is help themselves. And help other persons like themselves. You don't believe that because you don't look at the facts. You just listen to the hype and the lies that are told to you by the media, if you even bother to hear the media. But then what the media says gets filtered through the few people you know, and it comes out to you if you're black and poor that, oh, the Republicans hate you and are going to ruin your life, and the Democrats love you and they're going to make your life wonderful. Well, understand a couple of things. First of all, the Democratic Party has existed since the beginning of this country. Thomas Jefferson was a Democrat. Thomas Jefferson, even though he spoke a lot about God, was an atheist. He didn't believe in God, and he certainly didn't believe in Jesus. Now, John Adams was a saved Christian. He wasn't a person who said he was a Christian but didn't understand what salvation was. He was a person who was a Christian who believed in salvation. Now, the two of them together wrote the Declaration of Independence. And there are two groups of people who came to this country from Europe. There were persons who came here because they did not like what was going on in Europe. Slavery, dictatorships, rulers, kings who told you what religion to have and what to think and what to do. And societies that embraced that idea. And people who owned black people as slaves and made them work for free and beat them and mistreated them. And certain white people came here from Europe in the 1600s to get away from that, to end that. And when the oldest cities in this country were established, like St. Augustine, the Spanish, and Georgia, the British, these were started by people who didn't believe in slavery and didn't believe in inequality. They felt everyone should be treated equally and fairly. They were sort of honest Christians. Whether they understood salvation or not is another issue. But they didn't think that they were better than someone else because of their skin color or because of their ancestry. And the idea was let everybody succeed, let everyone prosper, and some people are going to fail, and you help those people because they failed. But then you let people succeed. And then you try to make sure that people are succeeding because they're working hard and they have a clever idea and they're offering things that are better than what other people are offering. Not that they succeed because they get to own you and own the culture and own the society. That they destroy their competition and win by destroying their competition. That is not an American idea. The American idea was that everyone should have an equal chance to participate in life. And it should be a level playing field. And some people are going to do very well, and others aren't going to do so well. And then, instead of letting the ones who did poorly die, you help them. And they at least make sure they have some of their basic needs, like food and some shelter, and a feeling of that if they would work right and do the right things, they could prosper and do well. Now, there were other persons who came here from Europe, white people, who felt the other way. We're going to succeed by taking advantage of other people. We're going to find ways to make those people work so we get the money or we get the benefit. Now, the media and the liars of history in your schools, the ones who misread and misinterpret history, try to make you think that the Democratic Party is for equality and goodness. And the Republican Party is only interested in the top 1%, the richest people in the country. Listen to the debate between Hillary and Trump that was given on the 20th. Hillary completely misunderstands America, and Trump only half understands it. And that's unfortunate. The worst thing the thing you got to understand is that the media gets to ask the questions there. And the media has their own agenda that is more closely aligned with the Democratic Party agenda than it is with the Republican. So every newspaper you read, every news story you hear that's American produced or British produced favors the Democrats. And they load their questions. They present the news in a way that only leaves you think that the Democrats are for the poor and the blacks and the Republicans are against them. And that is an absolute lie. Read your history. Read it. Don't read what the people who write the history books tell you the history means. Read the facts. Slavery wasn't supposed to be a part of the United States of America. It wasn't supposed to be a part of it. And until, for the very first part of the United States, which existed before the Constitution was written, that United States didn't have slavery allowed legally. But when they made the Constitution, the people in the South, who were white racists, insisted that that there be slavery and it be reckoned and recognized. Now, the people in the North, not all of them, but many of them, were against slavery. Read the Declaration of Independence and get your brain in your head and use it. Look, New York City was once called New Amsterdam. And that's because the Dutch were the leaders of the world at the time in the 1400s. The Dutch ruled the world economically. Now, in Europe, slavery was an issue in the 1400s, the 1500s. And finally it was decided that slavery, that the idea that you have a slave because they're black, and they're always going to be a slave because they're black, they decided that was not moral. It was immoral. It was wrong. And it wasn't going to be allowed to continue. But there was another issue, which the people who had slaves said, well, we own these slaves, and you have no right to take them away from us. We own our furniture, and you have no right to take our furniture, and we own our houses, and we own these people, and you have no right to take them from us. And even though that's a wicked racist idea, white supremacist racist idea, there was enough political will, and the Catholic Church, which was evil and controlled Europe, wasn't willing to say, well, you can't have slaves anymore. But it was willing to say, and it became the law in Europe by the 1600s, that if you had a slave, you could keep it. But you couldn't buy more slaves. And if you had a slave, you couldn't sell it. That is the history of Europe. I'm not lying to you. But if you don't look real careful in a history book, you'll never see that. But it's there. Now, what's going on? The Dutch, who were interested in business, they're interested in business today just like they were then. They had no moral standard by which to judge business. If you had a business and you stole from other businesses and you succeeded, then that was good. No matter what you did, if you were bringing prosperity in, it was good. Now, they didn't really let people steal, or businesses use their size to overpower other businesses, but it happened regularly. But the Dutch were interested in business because business brought prosperity, and prosperity brought wealth for everybody. The poorest people in the countries that have business and prosperity are much better off than the poor people in the countries that don't have that. Now, the Dutch thought, well, we can't buy and sell slaves in Europe. It's against the law. But we can go to the New World and we can create a colony there, and people who want to buy and sell slaves will bring the slaves there. The people can come and buy them and take them home. And then the people didn't come and buy them and take them home. They sent agents to buy them and bring them home. So they got around the law, and they got around the morality of the Catholic Church. And it happens to be that even though in Britain it was going back and forth a fight between the Protestant Church, the Church of England, separated from the Catholic Church, and the Catholic Church, and it went back and forth, that was also considered immoral. If you had a slave, fine. But if you tried to sell a slave or trade in slavery, you were a bad person. You were not moral. You were immoral. So you didn't rank very high and be considered very important. And that's why New Amsterdam was established, to trade slaves. Now, first, we won't go into that completely. We'll do that another time. First, the Dutch came here. And then more British came here than there were Dutch here. And then after that, more Germans came here than there were British or Dutch here to Manhattan Island. And there was it's in the history books, the facts, what happened, but then when they explain it, they lie to you. Because they impose their idea what it's supposed to mean so that you'll believe what they want you to believe, so you will not know the truth or even know that there is a truth to know other than what they're telling you and telling you is true and using facts to prove it. But facts don't prove anything unless you have an intelligent observer of the facts who's telling you the truth, or at least giving you a chance to decide for yourself what the truth is. Look, read the Declaration of Independence. Get it out and read it. In school, you were lied to about what it meant. And your teachers are too stupid, and the writers of the history books in the United States are too stupid to understand what it means because they don't know how to read. And they don't understand how to use a dictionary. And they don't understand how to think for themselves. They only can think of in terms of what they were taught to think and believe. The Declaration of Independence is a document that says all human beings are equal. They're equally important, and they should each be given a chance to enjoy life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, the white people in the United States were living that life. The only people who weren't living that life were the black people. Now, that's clearly a statement against racism, against slavery. But Thomas Jefferson, who was a very brilliant man and didn't believe in God, was half of the writer of the Declaration of Independence. The other half was John Adams, who thought slavery was wicked, wrong, not correct, and who believed you had to be saved to go to heaven. He believed that. And he really believed it. He didn't just pretend that he believed it, the way many Christians do. In fact, most Christians don't even understand the gospel. If you ask them to tell you what it is, they couldn't. And there's a whole slew of fundamentalists and evangelical Christians who could tell you what it means. But if you look carefully at the Bible and figure out what it means to God and to Jesus, you'll come to see that even they fall short in understanding what it's really about. There's a lousy picture here because I don't have the means to produce an unlousy picture. I can hardly see. But this message is important, and I've been trying for 8 months to get it on YouTube and become a part of the political debate. But I've failed. Most likely Hillary Clinton is going to win because the Democratic Party is a party controlled and run by white supremacist racists who love to prosper themselves by taking advantage of other human beings. That's what they think is freedom and right. And they'll say, well, everyone should have equality. And then they'll turn around and tell you that rich people who are successful in business should be punished. They should pay more taxes percentage-wise than poor people or middle-class people. And that's not right. It's not Christian. It's not equality. It's wrong. Okay, everyone's going to pay 10% tax. No deductions, no nothing. Fine. But no, the poor people will pay no tax at all. The middle class will pay 10%, and the rich people will pay 50%. That's not equality. That's not the United States. That's Hillary Clinton, who is a witch, who goes into tirades with her servants behind the cameras, and when she's in front of the camera, puts another face on and looks like an angel. But she only looks like an angel to people who are looking to serve demons, to serve Satan. Because Satan is an angel. He's a fallen angel. And demons are fallen angels. That's what they are. If you don't like that, that's a problem because the dictionary tells you what they are, and our Judeo-Christian heritage tells us that's what they are. Of course, Democrats love to change the meanings of the words so that you end up with a lie. Now get back to the Declaration of Independence. There's all these reasons why we have to break with the sovereignty, the King of England. And today they'll interpret those things as financial issues. And they're not. Look at them. The fact is that the King of England, the head of England, the one who was supposedly chosen by God to help people decide what's right and what's wrong, what's good and what's bad, that person was making his money by trading slaves in the United States and anywhere else in the world where he could do it without being considered doing something immoral or illegal. But he made his money by trading slaves. And the Declaration of Independence says we cannot have a person who's trading slaves as our king because that person is immoral. And we've tried to get him to stop trading slaves, and he won't do it. So now we've come to a place where we have recognized that we have to throw off that rule and come up with another kind of rule. And they chose to pick the Roman rule, the rule of Rome, which was long gone, and Greece a little bit, which was long gone. And that's what they decided, and that's what they did. And the United States is not a Christian nation. It is not even a God-fearing nation, supposedly, because Thomas Jefferson was an atheist. You go read all about God in his words, but he said about God because if he would have said he was an atheist, they would have thrown him out and not listened to a word he said. And that's exactly that. He started the Democratic Party, no, but he was there in it, starting it. And that's why you had slavery in this country, because the Southern Democrats insisted on it, or they wouldn't continue the Union. And the North people felt, well, the anti-slavery, the people who hated racism, and for that reason we're going to throw off the King of England, they said, well, let's stay together, because if they form a separate nation, we'll never be able to end slavery. And we want to end slavery. It's wrong. The kind of slavery where because you're black, you're a slave and you'll be a slave forever. There's another type of slavery. It's in the Bible. And it has a valid reason and purpose. But it's not permanent. It's never permanent. It's always temporary. And the purpose of it is to help the people who lost out in society, who failed economically, to help them to be able to straighten out and fly right. We'll explain that another time. Look, the Democratic Party, we'll get into that another time, or we're going to lose and you'll stop listening if you've listened this far. The Democratic Party is run and controlled by white racists who pretend they're not white racists. And the Republican Party, which was founded in 1860-something to end slavery, and when Lincoln got elected, the South bolted and said, we're going to be a separate country because we want slaves. And the North said, no, you're not. You're not. And it wasn't, oh, you have to stop your slavery. The issue was there's not going to be any more states that are going to have slavery. That's going to end. And, of course, their dream was to eventually end all the slavery. And they would have done it without a war, except the Democratic Party loves wars. They love wars, and they always create wars. As soon as Lincoln was elected, they started a war. And they attacked the United States government. And then we had the Civil War. And hundreds of thousands of white human beings who hated racism and hated slavery because they thought it was like stealing and bad, died. They died on the battlefield to make it possible so Abraham Lincoln could sign a paper and say, all the slaves are now free. That's what happened. And then for about 10 to 15 years, the Republican Party had black people running for Congress and Senate in the United States, and some got elected. The Republican Party was putting poor persons and poor black persons up for office in offices throughout the United States. They were. The Democratic Party's never run a poor person for any public office. They've never appointed a poor person to any public office. And no newspaper and no media has any poor people of any color working for them. They have their own agenda, and their own agenda is how can they make money off of your suffering and you're being taken advantage of by them. Wake up. Democracy isn't about voting. Democracy is about participating with your neighbors, not your friends, not the people you agree with your 30 neighbors, and discussing what you think is right and wrong and good and bad and what the role of government should be and how your government should be, and then sending 2 representatives, one presenting the majority opinion of your group and the other showing the minority opinion. You send 2 of them, maybe there's 150 groups of 30, and they each send 2 to a larger group, a higher group that talks about the same issues, and then comes back, and every 2 weeks you meet and you discuss these things. And then that higher group sends 5 or 8 representatives to a much bigger group, representing half the people in your state. And they discuss the issues, and they decide what we, the people, want to have happen. And then they pick someone to run for office and to represent their idea in the government. That's what democracy is about. And if you don't do that, you do not live in a democracy. You live in an oligarchy where certain people are telling you what to do. And you end up with an election with 2 people, neither of which are really great, and you decide between them. And they don't give you the truth. They lie to you. Each one of them lies about the other one and lies about themselves. But the Democratic Party has historically always favored war. In 80 years that it's run the country, including most of the cities, black people are oppressed. They're going to jail, and the jails are full of black people, and it's all run by the Democrats. 2 out of those 80 years, the Republicans had control of everything. The rest of the time, it was controlled by the Democrats. Now, you mean if the Democrats are against racism, in 78 years they can't end it? Or legally make it immoral and illegal? If they wanted to, they could. Well, guess why it hasn't happened? Because they don't want it to. What they want is to be a permanent class of poor person, mostly black, who they seem to be the champions of, and they're going to get elected because of how good they are, while all they're doing is trying to steal from the rich to put money in their own pockets and then take the tax money and bribe you into thinking they're your friends when they can't stand your guts. Hillary Clinton lived to 2,900 days in the White House. She never invited a poor black family there to visit with her because she can't stand black people, especially poor ones. She's a racist from Arkansas, and so is her husband. Stop being fooled. Wake up. Wake up. Read and think for yourself instead of being told what to think by a bunch of racists. And don't go fight a war and riot. Start to speak your opinion and your truth. I'm a poor white man and I am against Hillary Clinton. I'm for Trump. For Trump, poor for Trump at gmail.com. Thank you.